Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Learning to Die Less, the series where this guy here, Dionysius the Wave Master, has been on a quest to learn how to be a more effective character as I, a grumpy old guy gaming, learn to be a somewhat effective player here in .hack Fragment. Hope you're doing well. This is installment number 12, the second of our little revisit here. And you'll notice we're not starting off in the typical fashion. We are in Anu. We're not just jumping into a field and seeing how things go. Because again, these videos are a bit different than the original series. They're a chance to go back and really mention some of the things that are very useful in the game and can advance you quite a ways that we didn't hit in the first 10 episodes. Today's episode is going to deviate from the format more than most, but it's a topic I really sort of did want to take my time and go through, because it has the potential to be the biggest, flashiest, most powerful attack you hit here in .hack Fragment. We are talking about awakenings. What are they? How are they triggered? And we'll show you some examples of it from a run we did a few days back there. A whole host of people joined in, and I will do my best to credit everybody throughout the course of the video. But without further ado, let's get into the topic. Learning to die less, delving into awakenings in .hack Fragment. So as we mentioned earlier, we'll be talking about awakenings in this episode, and just to do a quick overview for you, hit some simple questions. Let's start off with the most basic of all. What are they? Simply put, an awakening is a party-based attack. If you're familiar with the .hack series at all, then you already know that you could form parties of up to 3 people, yourself and 2 other characters. In the single-player games, those will be NPCs that you encounter along the way. In Fragment, you can meet up with those NPCs in offline mode as well, but there's a unique feature to Fragment where you could hop online. Probably the most endearing part of this game, since it's functional thanks to a small and very dedicated group of people who keep this thing up and running, that you could hop on and team up with other players and play this game live. And being in that party of 3 online specifically with 2 other people is a very good step towards using these awakenings. Full disclosure, I haven't tried this in offline mode. I'm not sure even if you'd really want to, because really with the way it's set up and everything, this is an attack that is conducive to online mode, which is why you didn't see it in Infection, Mutation, Outbreak, or Quarantine. This is sort of a Fragment-specific thing, and it is by far and away the flashiest attack in .hack Fragment. If you're familiar with IMOQ at all, then by the time you run a fair bit of Fragment, everything sort of feels samey, if you will. These awakenings have a nice bit of spice and a nice little cinematic flair to them. They feel as special as they are. Now, if you've never played Fragment, but you're familiar with the .hack GU games, you're probably sitting there saying, yeah, but I know what awakenings are, and you're absolutely right. Awakenings are in .hack GU, and they are functionally similar enough that if you're familiar with awakenings in one game, you already have the gist of, by and large, how they work in the other. There are some differences, and again, we'll get into the Fragment-specific awakenings later on. But my introduction to awakenings was also through .hack GU. I got the last Recode trilogy for the PlayStation 4 about a year before I started playing Fragment. So I was already sort of primed when I started seeing awakenings popping up in my skills list. I'm like, oh, okay, sort of like those. Moving to my next set of points here. Can everyone use them? Yes. technically everyone could use Awakenings and .hack fragment provided you hit all of the qualifying points, the first of which being that party of 3. It's also important to mention that you all need to be looking at the same awakening. If 2 members of the party trigger an awakening and the third tries a different one, it'll fail every time. Probably the most important thing before you even go to cast an awakening is communication, making sure everyone's up to it and you're all agreed upon which awakening you're going to go for. We'll show you some examples later on how to set that up. Another thing you need to remember is that awakenings, like most skills, are going to have an SP cost. You'll want to take a look in your skills list in the same section that your magic spells are kept. Things like Vakram, for instance, the level 1 fire tornado, or Annie Dawn. Look in that list, and towards the bottom you'll see a bunch of skills piling up with the word Mina in it, and those are your awakenings. They'll say as much in the description. So you'll want to keep in mind the cost of the awakenings you're looking at. Obviously, the more expensive ones are going to be your more powerful ones, but if you have a third member of the party who's maybe not as far along in level, you'll want to cater more towards the smaller one to make sure they're able to cast it as well. Now perhaps you agreed upon looking at an awakening, got to the field, and didn't really think to plan it all out. All is not lost yet, and there's no need to return to town right away. The first step, oftentimes, to see if your party is able to cast an awakening is as simple as looking at the upper left corner of your screen. If your party is able to use an awakening together, you'll see 5 gems up in that upper left corner. They're going to start out pink in color, and as your party interacts with each other and the monsters on the field, you'll start to change those gems from pink to green. That's your awakening gauge. And when you have all 5 of those gems turned green, you're primed and ready to go. Is there any special gear needed? Yes and no. There's special gear needed in as much to make sure that you all have the same awakening. This is a place where the fairy storage really gets to be an unsung hero in this game, where you could keep several different armors or weapons around in a similar level range to what you're currently using. Maybe they're not your go-to weapon or armor right away, but to vary skills so that when you're looking at a specific field, if you know an awakening would help, that's perhaps got an elemental advantage over the monsters in the field, you could always pull that out of storage and use it. Gear tends to have multiple skills on it anyway, especially as you level up, so it's not too difficult, even with the standard gear you have on, to be able to just stumble into an awakening that all 3 of you have, especially if you're in a similar level range. How is an awakening triggered? Well, once your party's set on what awakening you're going to use, and you've got that gauge charged up to full when you're in combat, you have to target the same enemy. That's why it's really nice to hit combats with one large enemy. But even if you hit groups, if you could isolate one, or just defeat the others to get down to one, make sure that all 3 party members are targeting that same enemy, and then as soon as somebody triggers it, you'll have a brief timing window for the other 2 to trigger it as well. You don't have to do it in the same instant. And it's not the most unforgiving thing. You'll have a couple seconds to get everything together. but once you all hit it, you'll see on a successful attempt, the screen will darken a little, and you'll move into this brief cinematic before the actual casting animation goes off. If the trigger fails, I believe it'll give you an error message at the very top of the screen, and it'll take away a chunk of the awakening gauge as well, meaning you'll have to build up to it again. Well, that's about all the notes I have here for this little overview. Let's go ahead into the video, hit a couple specific points from some captured footage I got earlier, and then we'll meet back here later and do a final recap for the episode.
Before we go, we should check to see what awakenings we have.
Oh, very good.
And that's why you're the smart one.
Alright, let's go to skills. Magic. Alright. I do have an overabundance of them, so hopefully I can match with everybody.
Here.
Well, did we want to start with the 40s or the 80s? Because I feel like the 80s would just be awesome for capture.
I have like 180 right now, and it's Ormina Anigaso.
I have that one.
I have that one as well.
Okay, perfect.
Hey.
That was easy.
Now, I know we skipped the 40 SP ones earlier, but just for the sake of variety, did we want to see if we have one of those in common?
I think all of the ones that I had... Yeah, all the ones that I have are in the voice chat channel.
I did notice that when you're way over level, it takes forever to build those gems up because you're constantly just one-shotting everything.
Yeah, but
That's true.
You can spam items to make it go up fast. So if you just start giving people healing items like I can't remember if it was potions or mage's souls that worked better, but one of the two it'll just cause the awakening meter to go up super fast.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it any item or just the restorative items?
Just the restorative items. So, like, I think if you and you have to use them on each other. Like, you can't use them on yourself. But I think if you spam a bunch of mage's souls on somebody else, it should cause it to go up faster.
Yep. We've already.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
See?
Well done. Dang, you guys are not only helping me capture this footage, you're writing the episode for me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, now we can do it.
Okay.
Alright. Come on, target. Ah, sorry, I flubbed that one. Come on.
Well, the good news is it hasn't failed yet. The bad news is I'm frozen in place.
Yeah, we're frozen in place until Emuz does it, and I'm gonna die.
I need...
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, come on. It was left to... There we go. There we go!
And that's an awakening.
Yep.
I like how the little smoke just stayed in there.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
I also love how we just literally killed that thing with a lifetime supply of Halloween party decorations.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there you have it, a brief as I can do little walkthrough of Awakenings in .hack Fragment. As you saw there at the end, an absolute ton of damage. That monster had no chance and was dead long before the animation was over. Now, I did want to point out that while you have to target the same monster, everybody in the party to successfully trigger the awakening, it'll still hit any monsters in that area. It really is the flashiest and most powerful type of attack in .hack Fragment, and has been confirmed to turn the one sin, the strongest monster in the game, into a puddle of experience points and a funny story in one shot post data drain. So that's a little look at Awakenings. Hopefully this video has been informative and entertaining. There was plenty more that we captured in this epic run. Gonna do a bit of a bonus upload of this probably a little later in the week here, of some of the other things, because as I say a million times over, the best part of .hack Fragment is it's a .hack game that you could just get online, you could play with others, you could have fun, and as you could tell, it took a host of people to get this together. Myself, Emuz, and Spooky were on this run. I believe Spooky was streaming this on the Discord, so you had people joining in like Stein, you had Crisis on there, a whole bunch of people joining in and out throughout the night. And I wanted to show off part of that, but this video is getting a little long, so I think we'll just call this here, and I will drop the bonus content here in a couple days. In the meantime, thank you for watching, you take care, and we'll see you around.